The most important lesson that I've learned as a photographer is also the most important lesson that I learned as a writer. And it may even be the most important lesson that I've learned as a husband and as a father and as a friend and a neighbor. And today, I'm going to share it with you. Hello friends, and welcome back. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. No on-location shoot, no gear talk, just you and me and this camera. Yet what I want to talk about has everything to do with how we see, how we create, and ultimately how we live. A few years ago, a painter that I admire recommended the work of a philosopher with the really awesome name of Esther Lightcap Meek. And since then, I have heard her work recommended by many other artists and writers that I respect. And lately I've been reading a couple of her books. One is called A Little Manual of Knowing. I'm not sure if you can see that with the light. Oof. And then the other is called A Doorway to Artistry. And Esther Lightcap Meek's philosophical specialty is epistemology, which is the study of how we know. And specifically, she looks at the connection between knowing and loving. Now, most of us assume that we know in order to love, and that once we've gathered enough facts, once we fully understand, only then should we open our hearts to the possibilities of love. But what if we have that exactly backwards? Meek suggests an approach that upends that conventional order. We don't know in order to love, but rather we love in order to know. And she calls this covenantal epistemology, which I know that's like 10 syllables and it sounds pretty abstract, but I promise that it actually has profound practical implications and practical applications for us as creators and for us as creatures, for us as humans. That conventional approach to knowing is primarily concerned with collecting information. We are amassing facts. But a covenantal approach to knowing is about relationship, about trust and commitment, and being drawn deeper into mystery. Getting to know something or someone is actually an adventure that begins with the notice and the wonder of the real. And that's the real with a capital R. And this is one thing that I love about this approach. Covenantal epistemology, not sure if you saw that, like, I don't know if I spit when I said that. I'll restart the sentence in case I decide not to leave that in. The one thing that I love about this approach, covenantal epistemology really elevates and reverences reality. So much of modern life happens on screens and in virtual worlds. And some of the most powerful people in the world believe that we are living inside a computer simulation and they are intent on becoming the main character. This idea is hubristic. It is profoundly wrong. It's also profoundly dangerous. Meanwhile, we actually live and exist in this amazing and precious, but also fragile and complicated real world that keeps trying to get our attention. Esther Lightcap Meek says, to start to know is actually first a response to a dimly heard beckoning of the wonderful real. She says, if we can see knowing as a relationship between knower and known, we can see that reality makes the first overture. We don't truly come to know something by analyzing it from a distance. We are actually responding to a call. We come to know a thing or a person by moving toward it, by loving it first, by pledging ourselves to it. And I want to use an example from my marriage and then from my city. And then we'll look at what this means for photography and for other forms of our art. I promise that this is going to get really practical for how we create. And let's start with my marriage. I have been married to my wife, Kate, for 22 years. It'll be 23 years in November. We dated for only 4 months. We were engaged for only 4 months, and then we got married. It was a whirlwind. I loved Kate before I truly knew her, and the woman that I married was still largely a mystery to me. The covenant that we made with each other on our wedding day was a mutual pledge to love and to honor and to stick it out, even when things got tough. And that pledge provided the safety that we needed to risk vulnerability, to open ourselves up to one another, to know and to be known. More than 2 decades later, we can read each other's minds. We can finish each other's sentences. We can finish each other's sandwiches, as they say in the movie Frozen. And yet, I will actually never fully know Kate. She is a subject worthy of a lifetime of curiosity, of study, reverence, and wonder. This is true of all deep knowing. Something that I think is so interesting is that our word truth is related to the word troth, which is like a pledge or a promise. It's where we get our word betrothal. Truth reveals itself in promise. To truly know something or someone is not to control it. It is making and keeping a promise to love and honor. But what if this is not just limited to marriage? Early in our marriage, Kate and I moved a lot, new cities, new jobs, new friends. When our first child was born, we were living in Portland, Oregon. We had great friends there, but Kate and I are rural people at heart. We wanted to stop moving and settle down for good in a small town like the ones that had shaped us so profoundly as kids. For 18 months, we visited seemingly every small town within orbit of Portland, but somehow, in all of our travels, we missed Silverton, which is only like 45 miles away. Well, one night, it was a Christmas Eve actually, I was at the Benedictine Abbey in Mount Angel, which is like 4 miles from Silverton. I took a wrong turn and I ended up here in Silverton. I knew within minutes that this was going to be our home. The next day, Christmas Day, I brought Kate, and she knew even faster. Settling here for us was not just about relocating, it was about committing to a place, about even covenanting with the place. We said, essentially, Silverton's past will be our past. Silverton's present will be our present. And Silverton's future will be our future. And something beautiful happened. The town really opened itself up to us. And our theory as to how this happened is that we did not come in with an agenda. We didn't come with a plan to make over this town in our image. No, we were coming with humility and with love. It was imperfect, of course, but even looking back, I know that this was our posture. We came with humility and we came with love. We recognized that we were stepping midstream into a story that had started long before us and would continue long after. We have now been in Silverton for 14 years. It hasn't always been easy. There have been times, even recently, when it's been really hard to stick it out. I had a conversation with my wife earlier today about how it can be really hard to stay in a place. And sometimes you feel like a stranger in your own community. And that, we have grieved over some of these things. But we made a pledge, and God willing, this will be our home forever. Okay, so what does all of this have to do with the creative life? Whether we are writing or painting or composing or making a photograph, the deepest creative work happens when we approach our subject with love and wonder, when we pledge ourselves to it rather than try to dominate it. My favorite artists are those who don't merely seize a moment, they receive it. That doesn't mean that they can't act quickly when a scene or an idea or a moment of inspiration presents itself. No, they're able to respond even quickly because they have actually started with a posture of openness and expectation. They cultivate what Esther Lightcap Meek calls active receptivity, a posture of hospitality towards the world. What I've noticed in my photography, for example, is that when I go out with this posture of love, I take way more photographs than I used to. So many things are catching my eye. But I'm also now capable of spending an hour or more studying and photographing one scene, even one mushroom or one flower. And this reminds me of a wonderful passage from the great novel by Dostoevsky, The Brothers Karamazov. And Dostoevsky writes, "Love all God's creation, the whole and every grain of sand in it. Love every leaf, every ray of God's light. Love the animals, love the plants, love everything. If you love everything, you will perceive the divine mystery in things. Once you perceive it, you will begin to comprehend it better every day, and you will come at last to love the whole world with an all-embracing love." I'm a person of faith. I try to remember even, to even say a prayer when I go out on a photo shoot or on a photo walk or some sort of photography excursion. The prayer is usually simple, like some version of "open my eyes, help me see." If that's not you, my encouragement is still to go out with a mindset of love and expectation and compassion. I have started reading another book recently by Matt Stuart. It's called Think Like a Street Photographer. And in chapter 1, he says something very similar. Matt Stuart says, "A positive mental attitude is the key to great photographs. If you go out expecting to see interesting pictures, you tend to be more positive and then luckier." He goes on, he says, "My general outlook is get up, get out, and go and find things. I try to summon an excitement and amazement for life." But then listen to this. He says, "Luck is about switching on your eyes and your head, but at the risk of sounding sentimental, you do have to switch on your heart, your love for things." He says, "Love is a word I don't like using too much because it's bandied about all the time, but it is helpful to engage your empathy and feel an affinity for what you are looking at." When we photograph the world, it's streets, it's landscapes, it's people, it's quiet corners, it's busy crowds, it's joys, and even its pains, we bear witness to something larger than ourselves. We are bearing witness to the real. We say, this exists. This has meaning. This moment, however fleeting it is worthy of love. And I think that at its best, this is what photography can be. It is covenantal seeing. It is a path to covenantal knowing. So, my advice, whatever you do, whether that is connecting with your partner, listening to a neighbor or a friend, or exploring this world with a camera in hand, start with the love. In some ways, that may be the best advice I ever give on this channel. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.